Welcome to Bruin. Today, we're joined by Ava August, an immensely talented singer-songwriter and a current freshman at UCLA. We're going to discuss her creative process and what's coming up in her career. Ava August, welcome to Bruin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to touch on your personal background for a minute before we get into your sort of work in the music industry, etc.
Sure.
Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in a little city called Dana Point in Orange County, California. And I'm so blessed to have grown up there. It's honestly shaped my identity and who I am. And it's a little beach city.
And how long did you live there for before you moved to UCLA?
Yeah, I grew up there and I've lived there my entire life. In the same house, I went to all, the local schools, the elementary, middle school, and high school there in Dana Point. And yeah, parents still there. Everything's my whole home, my family, everyone's in Dana Point.
It's like a beach town, quite similar to Santa Monica.
Yes, I would say it's a lot more quaint and very small compared to Santa Monica. It feels like almost like one of the tiny little beach towns you would see on the East Coast. Like very, very Cape Cod. It's like its own little hub. There's nothing else like it. And the neighboring cities like San Clemente and Laguna Beach that are next to Dana Point all kind of have their own identity as well. It's like there's nothing like my hometown.
Do you think growing up in like a beach community has shaped who you are today?
Oh my gosh, 1,000,000%. I would say growing up in Dana Point, and being by the water and the ocean and the surf culture is so prominent and popular just in Southern California. And in my lyrics, my songs, I just like innately write about the beach and kind of growing up near the coast. So definitely.
How many songs have you produced to date, if you don't mind me
Oh my
asking?
gosh, yeah. That's a great question. I would say so to date of songs that I've actually produced and released, I've released about 8 songs. If we're talking about just how many songs I've written, too many to count, definitely over 100 songs for sure. But I've actually like released 8 songs.
So you've written significantly more than you put out. That kind of,
100%.
do you credit that to a mindset where you're not necessarily striving for perfection in what you do, but you're just kind of playing around more as like an experiment, more for fun in your music?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, honestly, the reason why I have so many like unreleased original songs and only a few that are out is probably just because of kind of my journey thus far and like growing up. I didn't have a lot of access to resources to, producers and to be able to put my music out. And so I've been writing since I was 9 years old. And so when you have that much music in like a discography of so many songs, I like to almost call it like the vault of songs. It's kind of it just like is inevitable. You're just gonna have so many songs over the years. But I would definitely say too, right now I'm kind of a little bit of a perfectionist. And so the music that I release and actually put out on Spotify and Apple Music, I want it to be perfect. And so there's so many factors that go into like which songs go into release.
I think that's important for people to hear that, on the surface, you see these songs come out and it is very well produced and it's great. But behind the scenes, it's not just kind of a one track upwards trajectory. There's a lot of kind of barriers and failures and stumbling blocks
Yeah.
that sort of lead to the culmination of those songs.
A
So
100%. I couldn't agree more. It's so true. I think for people who aren't in the music business or aren't musicians themselves or songwriters and kind of doing music, when they see this shiny product that's out and released on Spotify and this beautiful music video, maybe for their favorite artist, there's so much that they're not seeing behind the scenes. There's failure, there's setbacks, there's people in power who are helping them and maybe their team's like, no, we don't think this song is the vibe. And like, there's so much that an artist has to go to go through from start to finish when you see a shiny product, which is the music. And so it's been, eye-opening just for me and my musical journey starting at such a young age.
and do you think that process behind the scenes is something that the mainstream audience really understands?
Hmm. To be honest, I don't think so. I think a lot of people, and the reason I say it is because so many people who aren't in the business will just kind of go, "Oh, so you went to the studio today? Is the song coming out tomorrow?" Like, they'd have no idea.
Right.
You go back and I mean, sometimes I work on songs for 6 months. Like, my song, "The End," that was just released, I've had that song, not since last July, but the July before that. So, it's been well over a year that I've had "The End" and, like, going back and forth to the drawing board and going, "How can we, do this?" Or, "The mix isn't right, and I wanna re-record this verse." It's like it's very nitpicky. It's crazy.
But it sounds like you're kind of well acquainted to the process by now. You kind of know how this goes, and you're not necessarily put off by the natural hurdles that occur when writing a
Yes.
song.
For sure, and I would say too, I would rather spend 6 months on a song to make sure when I listen to it, I don't hear any little thing that I wanna tweak to it, than go into the studio, work with a producer or writer, do a song, and then feel like that pressure where it's like, "Oh, I have to release a song in a month or something," and there's still little things that I don't like about it because I think the worst thing for every artist is when you listen to a final master of a record, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I hear this or that, or the mix isn't right." It's the worst.
And what are some strategies that you utilize pretty regularly to help you kind of muddle through that that feeling of being rushed and needing to produce something and needing to produce it now? Are there any strategies, any what does the texture of your mind look like?
For sure. I would say too, because I'm 100% independent artist and I'm not signed to a publisher or a record label or, with a distribution company and signing a distro deal, I'm able to, completely control my artist project, which is, incredible. And there's so many pros to it. Honestly, I think the pros outweigh the cons. But part of that is release schedule and not feeling that pressure from a label. Because what typically happens is an artist will sign a record deal and they will be tied down, contractually to a release schedule where, sometimes it really goes down to the last month where an artist has to work with their producer and produce XYZ amount of songs within 2 weeks. And there's no going back. Like, you have to get it done. And it's been amazing. I'm not tied down to anything like that. So I can go back to the drawing board and go, okay, this song sounds great, but we need to, edit this bridge, or I want to re record the vocals, or I need a new mix. So there's none of that pressure, but then there's also the pressure too of if you wait too long to release singles, you lose that momentum. And I think for artists, that's the most important thing, especially when you're up and coming. You don't have that luxury to just wait a year to release a song. And I also just love releasing music. There's always that excitement, and it's why I do it is to release the music. Um, so I never like to keep my fans waiting too long. And I really am excited too for this upcoming year. I've got a lot of songs like in a batch ready to go.
Well, let's talk about some of that passion. First of all, kind of segueing back in time. Where did it come from? Where did this love for music start from?
I would say my love for music started. I remember there's this vivid memory of me in the car seat at like 4 years old in the back of the car. And I was just I was tuning into the radio and everyone was in the car talking. And I zoned out and solely listened to the music. And I was that type of kid where it was always like, "Mom, can you please turn up like the radio?" And she's like, "Ava, I'm trying to have a conversation with you. What are you doing?" Every single time a pop song would play on the radio, it was like, I was so drawn to it. And I remember I was a very vocal child. If you ask anyone in my family, they're like, we couldn't get Ava to stop talking, stop singing. A very theatrical child. And it really started with the national anthems, I would say. And I started singing the national anthems at local sporting events. So my dad was more of like the sports guy in the family, and my mom really kind of she nurtured my creativity. And I was a very active child as well. So I would play soccer, and then right after my game, I'd go sing the national anthem for the opening day ceremony. So that's how I got the best of both worlds in the beginning. Um, and I would say honestly, in the very, very beginning of just my love for music, it started with singing and musical theater, and I begged my mom to do different plays in my local hometown, and that's kind of where it started was the singing for sure.
And what are the resources at Dana Point? Was there I mean, you mentioned you were doing some of it in high school as well, kind of theater classes, etc.
Yeah.
Do you think the resources of being in a small town were an asset or, I mean, or a detriment? You know, did you ever wish, oh,
Wow.
damn, I wish I was in New York City right now, you know?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. I would definitely say as a child and being very young, and especially my early years, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, it was a dream to be not even in New York, but in Hollywood and being in Los Angeles. It's been my lifelong goal. Like, I always thought, especially as a child, like, "Oh, if I just got to LA, if I just got to Hollywood, I, could be on Disney Channel." I think too, that was a huge goal of mine was to do that whole Disney route as a child. Like, I wanted to have, be on a Disney Channel show and then, have the record deal part of it too, where I'm like a singing Disney actor. And I think that was a dream as a child for so long. And especially with my parents, because none of them are musical. They're not in the entertainment business at all. So it was always this feeling like if I could just get to LA and meet the right people, then my career could take off. And so I think especially being here at UCLA, like it's my dream has come true. So it's amazing.
Right. I mean, you basically manifested it. Here you are.
I really did. Yeah.
Season 19, American Idol. Run me through that. How did that happen?
Yeah. So it was during COVID. And I remember all of my performances got shut down because what I love to do and at the heart of everything and why I do music is that live, fan to singer interaction and singing live to people. I love performing. And so all my performances got shut down because of COVID. And I was 14 at the time. And my social media had, started to kind of pick up. I started posting like behind my parents' back on social media in elementary school. And I remember I, started to grow a little bit of a following by getting reposted on those different like singer accounts online. And someone in my family caught wind of it. And then my mom's like, well, you're going to, if you want to do this, I love it, but I'm going to be managing your socials. You're too young for this. So I was posting since, I mean, I was probably 10 or 11. And one of my videos during COVID was seen by a casting director of American Idol. And this casting producer reached out to me on Instagram DM and they literally just asked, like, would you be interested in auditioning for American Idol?
So he saw a clip of you on Instagram.
Yes. And that's like literally how all of my connections and everything at a young age was honestly fostered and started through my social media and singing videos.
We'll take note. I guess casting directors doom scroll like the rest of us. That's great.
I know. It's wild.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier that you kind of got your start in some of the national anthem performances.
Yeah.
Did you perform the national anthem? You performed in some big crowds,
Yeah.
LA Rams, Crypto Arena, SoFi. Was that before season 19 of American Idol or after?
That was after the show. So all the big sporting events and like the big stadium national anthems were after the show.
Okay, so the show really was. Do you think that that was kind of your first crack at a really high pressure situation where you've kind of just got to go out there live? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. American Idol was something and still to this day, I've never experienced anything like it. And honestly, I think the only time like I probably would experience something like that, but not even that type of pressure would be performing on like another show, either Saturday Night Live or doing the MTV Music Video Awards or it's like performing at the Grammys or something like that. But doing that, especially at 15, it was one of the most nerve-wracking and probably the most nerve-wracking experience of my life because you're singing in front of, this huge camera that's in your face. And you're on the stage, you're at CBS Studios, that's where they shoot American Idol. And behind that camera is 11 million plus people watching from their homes on TV. And they've got their phones out on an app and your face is on the app and they vote for you if they want you to go through the next round. And so you're basically singing for your life because you want it so bad. You want to go to that next round. And I remember every single performance, it's like this type of weakness in the knees and like you can't even stand up. And I don't even know how I even did it because it's this type of nerve where it's like you're either gonna keep going or you're gonna get voted out. And you have to sing for your life.
That type of pressure is scary for people in adulthood, so it's pretty
Yeah.
astonishing. So you were 14 when the casting director first saw you and took interest. You were 15 when you went on the show. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, it was such a long experience. Like, they first reached out to me, June of COVID, and in August, I did a Zoom audition with the producers, and then the producers asked me, "Hey, do you wanna actually do an in-person audition with Katie, Luke, and Lionel in San Diego?" And so what a lot of people don't know about American Idol, like, at least from my experience, was that, people, I think, often have the misconception that you just show up to the audition, like, "Oh, I'm here, I'm ready to sing for the judges." But there's still even, like, a background audition process before that as well.
Right. I mean, I guess everyone's kind of scouted on some level before, they
Yes.
um talk to me a little bit about the behind the scenes of being a young enthusiastic star going on these shows. What is it like? I mean,
Yeah.
is there anything you kind of want to point out? Anything that people don't know the mainstream isn't privy to, that deserves some attention?
Yeah, for sure. I would say for this, and this kind of applies to, I would say, for child actors, for singers, for pop stars, anyone in the entertainment business at a young age, is there's so much that goes on, and there's a lot that's out of your control. Whether it's, virality online, you can't control that, or, being on a TV show, the producers, it's out of your control. And so I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is that you really have to remember why you're doing this, and I think this applies for anyone in entertainment and also just in life, in whatever they're trying to pursue, is that, the best thing that you can do is show up and give it your all and do your best, and I think, um, being in the entertainment business at such a young age, I've seen that, there's a lot of unforeseen forces that, determine your fate, or especially like on a TV show, on a reality show like American Idol. There's a lot of different things and factors involved, and learning that it's not me, it's, sometimes it's out of my control, was something that was very hard to learn, but it made me a lot stronger. And like the voting process and performing, like the only thing that I needed to think about was giving it my all in that performance and in that moment. And I think what I've taken from that now is whenever I perform, it's that same mentality, like just go in there and, prove everyone wrong. A lot of that mentality.
Right. I mean, I was thinking about it earlier today. It's you go in there as a teenager, you're in this platform where you're, at least on a superficial level, your kind of value and what you can bring is being judged through a few minutes, and you have to feel the pressure to live up to that judgment. So I mean, it's great that you kind of found a way to rationalize that in a sense, because that's hugely difficult for
Yeah,
someone of that age
for
to
sure.
comprehend. And yeah, I mean, from what you've described, it really probably just does feel like that as well when you're doing it.
Yes. It's very hard, and I think for anyone at any age, it's hard. Putting yourself out there to be judged is one of the most, I think, nerve-wracking and difficult things for any human being to experience because, at some point, it's no longer about the art anymore, it's about you as a human being, and you're putting yourself out there, and you don't know how the public will perceive you. But, it takes a very specific type of person, I think, to be in the entertainment business because the entire time you're entertaining people, they wanna be entertained, and so you're inevitably putting yourself out there, and you're gonna get good criticism, bad criticism, but, someone very wise once told me that all criticism is good criticism. Same thing as, like, press. Good press, bad press, it's press, and people are talking about you. And so I think even being on American Idol, that really taught me and instilled that message in me that, this is what I wanna do. I've, always known my entire life that I wanna make music for the rest of my life, and part of making art is that people are gonna have opinions about it.
That's a lifelong skill. That's an attribute you can take with you anywhere. So that's great. Was the voice a similar thing?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the voice was wild because I was that same thing again where I started the show when I was 12, the audition process, but I was actually 13 when I did the audition, and I was also the youngest on that show. I don't know if anyone younger has done it, but as far as I know, on that season, I was the youngest, and I was such a little baby on that show. It's actually wild, to think about that whole experience. but I truly do think that going on The Voice and having that really prepared me for American Idol.
I didn't know you did that before American Idol.
Yes.
So I'm just figuring that out. Okay, so The Voice, if anything, it wasn't in front of an audience to the scale of American Idol, I would guess.
Yes, I would say, like, so that they produced the show at NBC. So, like, NBC Universal Studios is where, we filmed it, like, in the Universal Studios lot, and they have a whole crowd in there when we did the performance in the audition, but not as many people I think are watching initially in that beginning stage because it's not as far out, but, no, they still had cameras and everything and same kind of experience. So it did set me up for American Idol because I still remember the experience of The Voice and, anytime you're on, like, a TV show like that, they're teaching you all about the cameras and interviews and, um yeah, I've learned so much. I've grown so much since then. It's crazy.
It's got to feel good in some capacity to go to college and cool off in a sense,
Mm,
and be able to produce a little bit more at your own pace and under your own volition, and take classes and
mm.
kind of not have to worry about all that. Is the struggle of, well, I don't know if it is a struggle, you'll tell me, is that it? Do you find it difficult to balance your academic goals with what you want to do with music?
That's such a good question. I honestly I think about that a lot, like, almost every day, and I think for me, being here at UCLA, it's the perfect blend and it's the perfect, mix of what I'm trying to do because it's offered me a place to live up here in LA. Living on campus, living in the dorms, it's been incredible, and I'm finally in Westwood. I'm so close to everything that I'm trying to do. And the one thing I do wanna mention is my goals never changed. My goal has always been the same and always will be the same of wanting to be, an artist and, pushing as hard as I can for my goals to happen and achieve, everything I wanna achieve. But, I think being at UCLA, it's like a vessel for that to happen, because I'm majoring in music industry. And so, for the first time in my life, it's kind of wild that, like, my major and the classes I'm taking are directly related to my actual, my goals and what I'm trying to pursue in my career. And for so long in high school and all the classes I took, I worked so hard in studying like so many different subjects where it's kind of wild where now I'm like, I'm studying stuff that directly pertains to my career. So it's the best of both the worlds. And I've found that it's been really easy to balance the two and I'm fully embracing my whole experience here.
So do you think the subject content of this new major that you're doing does overlap? Because you've got a
Yeah.
pretty unique perspective where you can kind of examine that. Does it actually overlap with what people can expect going into the industry?
For sure. I couldn't agree more. I honestly think that doing music industry here at UCLA, it couldn't be a better fit for me because it's directly related to everything I'm trying to do. And with my experience thus far in the industry, being on two shows and seeing how this all works and management and the different roles that industry executives play in an artist's career, it couldn't be more kind of symbiotic with the classes that I'm taking. It's like they literally go hand in hand.
Well, that's good to hear. Let's segue for a minute and talk about some of the music you've released recently. So most
Yes.
recently, The End.
Yeah.
I listened to it. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It struck a different tone from some of the other music that I listened to.
Yeah.
What was it about?
Oh my gosh. So The End is a song that I feel like it can be interpreted so many different ways. But for me, I wrote it in a place where there was this person in my life who kept kind of coming back into it, but then kind of going out of my life again. And I kept wanting them to come back in and giving them so many second tries to kind of prove me wrong. This person was, um, they made me feel horrible. This person really was affecting my mental health. They were doing a lot of things that just someone shouldn't do to a friend. And I remember I was really fed up with their shenanigans. And so I had a session with my producer, Dylan, that summer and I came up with I had the chord progression and a few lyrics. and the song was birthed, and we literally got the whole song done and recorded in that one day. Just wild.
So that's a little bit of a break in pattern from some of your other music. You kind of
Yes.
that one really was you recorded it and it was just you thought this one, yeah, this
Yeah.
is good.
And it was wild too because I had never done, like, a pop rock slash pumps or punk song before. So that was super fun, and I remember my producer, Dylan, he's awesome, and he always kind of pushes me out of my comfort zone and really encourages me to try new things. As an artist, I think it's so important to never put yourself in a box with kind of what genre you're, always going for, and I would definitely say I stay within the pop genre, but I love to incorporate subgenres, maybe a little bit more folk or more singer-songwriter, more acoustic, and in this case, more pop rock. And I remember it was so therapeutic for me to write this because I got all my emotions, and I don't know if you can hear that like anger in the song with this person who had done me wrong, but it really helped me get through that whole experience.
Well, speaking of that kind of emotion and that kind of diversity in themes, what does the term musical omnivore mean to you? I've heard you
Mhm.
described in that way.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, in my terms, I think being a musical omnivore is someone who, there's no boundaries to what they like to listen to, what they consume as a listener, but also as a musician. I think for me, I love so much music. I love all types of music. And I think for a lot of people too, when you hear my music, there's kind of a lot of subgenres going on within the pop genre. And I never ever like to put a wall up or kind of turn away from leaning into a subgenre of pop. And so my song, for instance, "Move On" is a lot. It's completely different than "The End." It's a pop ballad on the piano, big vocals, very similar to like some of Adele's hits, um, very Lewis Capaldi. But then I would say "The End" is very, Olivia Rodrigo, Paramore, very kind of pop rock. And so I think being a musical omnivore, you're just like you're not discriminating against any genre. You love it all.
Right. I mean, as someone who enjoys all sorts of music, I can appreciate that for sure. You touched on something there that I don't think I actually asked about. What instruments do you play?
Yes. So I play the ukulele and the piano, the acoustic guitar, and electric guitar.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's a little bit. I know a few instruments.
When did you find the time?
Oh my gosh. I think I was that you know what? I was a peculiar child. I wasn't your typical, 9, 10, 11-year-old kid where, you'd get home from school and you want to just, hang out with your friends for hours after, or like, go and play video games or, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's awesome as well. But for me, I remember like I'd get home from school and the first thing I'd do was go upstairs, play the piano, go upstairs, write a song on the guitar or ukulele. And I was really lucky that my parents, really helped foster my love for playing instruments, and they had me enrolled in piano lessons and guitar lessons at a super young age, and so I fell in love with it. I got lost in the music.
That's interesting because you said earlier that none of your parents hailed from a musical background, as you described it, but it seems like they were more than happy to give you the catalyst to pursue this talent, I guess, that you had or this interest.
Totally. It's actually insane, and I still sometimes think about it like, you know, what did they see? Or I wonder what kind of made them and gave them that encouragement, like, "We're gonna really help Ava foster this." It really sometimes it takes me aback how much they support me, and they've been by my side through every single step of the way since I expressed to them at 9 years old, like, Mom, I wanna be a pop singer. This is what I wanna do for a living." And it's kinda wild because so many parents would go like, "Okay, it's fun, but, like, you're not gonna no, you're not doing that."
Right.
And I think they've always believed in me, and they've always encouraged me, like, with my delusional dreams sometimes, a 9-year-old coming up to your parents going, "I wanna be, a pop star." My mom goes, "Okay, like, let's get you in lessons. Let's, have you learn the instruments. You're gonna start to songwrite." And, but it was never my parents, it was always me who wanted this.
That's pretty cool. I mean, either way that you kind of knew what you wanted to do, and when provided the opportunity, you kind of pounced on it and actually went for it.
Totally. And it's scary too. I know so many people, I think, especially with dreams and very creative dreams, that and I get it. It's scary. It's very daunting because there's a lot of instability with, being an artist, being a creative, making art. And it strays a lot of people away, I think, from their dreams. But you have to be a little delusional if you want to pursue it full time.
And how much of this process of producing music do you put down to the actual aspect of producing music? How much of it, because you said you're more or less a one-woman show,
Hmm.
excluding Dylan, the producer. Well, first of all, is there anyone else besides Dylan that you kind of actively consider as part of the team?
Yes. Well, I would say, regarding my creative process, it's definitely been, honestly, for the last probably year, mainly just Dylan and I. So, he's my favorite writing partner because we, write together. So I'll come with my idea, either a hook or a verse melody, and I will play it for Dylan. And then, depending on if we both are vibing with it and like it, he'll totally help write the rest of the song and build the track. And he's kind of like my go-to person when we're creating music. But, definitely with other sessions and other producers and stuff, I'll work with other co-writers. Um, so that's really incredible too to have co-writers on the song because then you have myself who's a writer, a co-writer in a room, and sometimes the producer will also write and contribute. So you've got 3 brains working instead of just 2 or 1, and, you get, a lot of good work out of those because you just have so many different influences coming in. But I would say too, besides creatively, like my team, my manager Jordan, she's incredible, and my parents, like, that's kind of my team right now.
Especially for your kind of music, which seems to be more about kind of raw authenticity and honesty.
Thank you.
Do you think it helps to have a team that you are close with, where you can kind of be vulnerable and explore these topics and just ask, hey, what do you think about this? And not kind of worry that you're outing yourself in some way.
Oh my gosh, I can't even stress it enough how important it is to have a tight-knit team. Being a musician and an artist and in this industry, so many people want something from you or you don't know what their intentions are. And so to have a tight-knit team that I have right now where I can be brutally honest. I can, be myself. I don't feel like, they're out to get something from me or they're trying to, trick you into something or like anything like that. There's none of that with my team. And it's so common and unfortunately like very prominent in this industry where, you get some bad team members who are working on an artist project and, everything goes awry. But I've luckily been very blessed to not have encountered that yet in the industry, and hopefully not anytime soon.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the future and what could be next. Where are you planning on taking things kind of at your own pace? Are there any big projects coming up? Sort of
Yeah.
what's immediately after this?
Oh my gosh. I would say so right now I'm currently still, promoting my single that came out this last month. And so I'm still actively promoting that, but I would also say honestly just getting in the studio as much as possible and building my vault of songs and then at the top of next year I'm going to be releasing a lot more music and hopefully an EP of songs. It's still little newsflash, it's still not confirmed. So, like on my socials, and I'll post about it whether it's going to be an EP or if I'm still doing the single route. I still have to decide, but I would say short term, being in the studio as much as possible, performing. Long term, I'm definitely going to keep releasing music, and in the following months, January, February, more singles are to come. So I'm very excited about that.
So January, February. Besides that, you've got 3.5 years left at UCLA. So I would assume that you plan on graduating with your undergraduate degree, correct?
I think so. Stranger things could happen. And honestly, part of me, I have no idea what even like the spring of 2025 will bring. I feel like there's a lot of exciting things right around the corner. There's a lot of things kind of brewing in the Ava August world. There's possibilities of a tour, of potentially an album. I would definitely say though, more realistically, probably an EP. And, I'm not opposed to, signing with a label or anything like that or building more of a team. I'm also, interested in acting as well. So there's a lot of exciting things around the corner and things that are going on in the Ava August world.
Okay, so you're not subscribing to a totally rigid regime or plan for the future. You're kind of leaving it a little bit open,
Yes,
room for spontaneity.
for sure. I really think it's wherever the music takes me. And the one thing I know for sure, and that definitely will not change, is that music will be at the forefront of whatever I'm doing in all of the following years. So it's exciting.
The momentum's not stopping.
No, the momentum, that's been the biggest thing too, is like after my song that just came out is, being released and everything, like just making sure to have a lot of singles like ready to go right after to keep that momentum.
So you write a lot of music, keep that momentum up. Do you do any other live performances pretty regularly?
Yes, so I actually, and this kind of goes back to my original story of how, my upbringing was and growing up in Dana Point, but I love to perform. I love to busk. I've been doing it since I was 12, and I will often busk down in Laguna Beach on the promenade, and it's so much fun. I'll sing for, 2 hours usually, and a huge crowd will form on the street, and those street shows are magical. So I love to do those. I'm gonna have more of those in the winter months, and also in December, I'm going to be doing some holiday shows, which I'm excited about. And also in LA, like I just did a So Far Sound show, which is this really incredible company that hosts these private artist events all over the world. They're kind of like the little secret pop-up shows all over the place for artists to do. And I just did one in Venice, and I plan on doing more shows in LA for sure.
How easy is it if someone's an aspiring artist and they kind of want to get some experience playing in front of a live audience, how do you recommend they go about it? Just kind of reach out door to door?
Oh my gosh, it's the name of this game is networking and reaching out to people. You have to expect, to send, someone a follow-up email, up to like 5 times to really get people to respond. And especially if you're an aspiring artist and you want to get out and just get that momentum of like what it's like to even perform out. I mean, I started with open mic nights after soccer practice when I was 9. I'd beg my mom, "Hey, can we go to the local bar and like can I go to open mic?"
A
And
local bar at age 9?
yes, a little, it was a local sports bar, in my hometown, and they had open mic nights on Tuesday, and that's really where I first sang publicly.
You've got a cool mom. It's
She's
great.
she's incredible, and my dad too. They're both, my mom's more creative and my dad's my roadie. He helps me set up all my shows, helps with the merch, does all the stage lights, the sound. It's incredible.
Fantastic. We're going to wrap up pretty shortly. I want to just focus in on the UCLA cohort here.
Yeah.
This is a pretty broad question. Well, let me start with this. A lot of people will hear this and they'll feel a sense of enthusiasm. People who want to emulate what you're doing in some capacity. They may not know what direction they want to go in. They'll feel a little bit overwhelmed. There
Yeah,
might be a fear of failure somewhere in there.
totally.
Um, and even, sort of counting a lot of the things we've talked about, what are some fundamental core insights, practices, advice that you can give to the cohort at UCLA who want to pursue a career in music but don't quite know how to go about it?
Wow. Oh my gosh, there's so many layers to that question. I would say for any of the cohort here at UCLA, um, who's watching this podcast right now and listening, I would say the first thing I would do if I were just starting out, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I want to make it a career and a full time job, is to firstly always remember why you're doing it, and it's for the love of music. And secondly, I would network like your life depends on it. And being here in LA, in Los Angeles, is one of the greatest privileges, and you couldn't be in a better spot for making music and pursuing this career. So I would say utilize this city of Los Angeles to the greatest of your capacity and advantage. And what that would mean would be honestly to network with everyone in the music school. If you know musicians, if you aren't a musician yourself, so you can't play instruments, but you want to sing, network with all of the musicians here who play. I would say, honestly, if you can even create like jam sessions where you're working with people and then, post those on social media, I would say also another big factor would be if you want to be a musical artist and you want to be in the mainstream, it really depends on like the level of kind of, I guess, recognition that you want to have as a musical artist. But one of the biggest things, and it's something that's very hard to do, but really social media is key right now if you want to be a musical artist in 2024. And so for everyone here at UCLA who wants to be in the music field and be an artist, I would definitely recommend um, putting time and investing time into social media on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all that jazz, putting yourself out there. And you do have to develop a thick skin because, when you're putting yourself out there and you're posting yourself either singing or playing, it's up for interpretation. And that's something I've had to learn the hard way over the years through all my experiences. But I would say you really just develop a thick skin, remember why you're doing it, and network like your life depends on it.
Well, speaking of social media, people want to see what you're doing, listen to your music. Where can they find you?
Yes. So I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet, on socials. I'm basically Ava August, stage name Ava and then August like the month. And I'm on everything: TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube, you name it.
Well, great. Listen, Ava, this has been extraordinarily interesting for me at the very least. I know our listeners will find it just as intriguing. Um, I wish you all the success in the world. Hopefully,
So much.
hopefully we can rendezvous and get you back here a year from now, and we can discuss some of the
Yeah,
projects that have yet to happen.
for sure.
And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Aiden. This has been incredible. And I'm honestly so honored to be a guest here on the podcast. And I can't wait for viewers and listeners to watch this and hear our discussion. And I can't wait to be back.
Well, thank you.